Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing make your ex think of you positively. I provide audio coaching to help people try and get their ex back or get a new girlfriend or boyfriend. Check out my website for more details, www.dateme.tips. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing make your ex think of you positively. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you need your ex to think of you in a positive light. In today's podcast, I'll be discussing 3 suggestions of how to make your ex think of you more positively. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is planting triggers. Now, before I get into point number 1, I just want to quickly say I believe that today's podcast is so important for you to try and increase the chance of getting your ex back. I would really like you to try to spread this podcast far and wide to help the community. If you want to help people listen to this podcast who are in a position such as yourself, please give this a like because it will help the YouTube algorithm push this out to more people and to share this video far and wide. So now point number 1, we're discussing planting triggers. Now this is a situation where you will be seeing your ex. Now this doesn't necessarily mean you're at the stage of where you might be reconnecting. This isn't necessarily the quote-unquote meeting up stage which comes after the communication stage. No, this could be much sooner. This could be an instance in a situation of where you see your ex because you're simply collecting your possessions. So if you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't think I'm anywhere near the point of getting my ex back, just think about this. You might be in a position where you have to collect your belongings, or maybe they have to collect their belongings. Either way, you will have an opportunity potentially to see each other, even if right now it is not in a dating sense. So what can you be doing? Well, I suggest that you drop a subtle trigger, and it's got to be subtle because if it's not subtle, your ex, the dumper, will realise what game you're trying to play. Now you need to be thinking of what might be said to you. Often somebody will say a basic question of, how are you? You know, even if relations aren't that great between you, your ex, the dumper, is likely to ask, how you doing? How have you been? You're probably thinking, well, I'm doing terrible. You know, I've just been dumped. But you'd be surprised how many dumpers just ask that question without really even thinking about the connotations of what it might have. Now, if your ex-dumper asks you that, of course, you're not going to be saying, well, I'm doing terrible because you've dumped me. That is not going to help your chances at all. Instead, I want you to be thinking about your current circumstances and situations. So for this example, I'm going to suggest that it's really hot. It's really warm where you're living, probably hotter and warmer than it normally is for you at this time of year. So if your ex-dumper asks you something such as, hi, thanks for letting me come in, how are you? You want to be responding in a way where you can plant that positive trigger. So let's just say, for instance, it is ridiculously hot, ridiculously warm where you are right now. You need to be thinking of a way that you can link this to the past in a positive way. Maybe you and your ex went on a beach holiday, a beach vacation a couple of years ago where it was really warm and you had a fantastic time. If your ex asks you how you're doing, you can link that by saying something such as, in your own words, well, I never thought it would be as hot here as when we was on vacation together, wherever it was, obviously fill in that blank. Doing something as subtle as that, which seems very natural, it is going to plant that thought in your ex-dumper's mind. They will naturally think back to when you were on that holiday, that vacation together. And if, as I've suggested, you plant the seed of something which was really positive, this is going to have a powerful impact. They'll be thinking of the time you were together on holiday, on vacation, on that beach trip, where it was a really good time together. And you've dropped that in subtly. They've asked how you're doing, you have linked it to the fact it's really warm where you are right now, and you're kind of saying, well, I never thought it'd be as warm here as when we was on vacation. That is the example that I'm giving. Now, of course, there are an infinite amount of possibilities. And if you want support and advice of what type of triggers you could use in this instance, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation and problem. go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast about make your ex think of you positively. And point number 2 is be active in the community. Now, whether or not you and your ex are communicating right now, if you live within the same community, if you live within the same town or even the same city, you have an opportunity of doing something in the community which is seen as positive and which can get back to your ex. Now, you might be thinking, well, this seems left field. Well, if you're trying to get your ex back, sometimes you need to think of things which are left field. Sometimes you've got to think outside of the box. I would suggest doing something which shows the best side of you. This can particularly help if you were dumped because you were not showing the best side of you. An example could be maybe you do some charity work. Maybe you help people less fortunate than yourself, and that, if that drip feeds back through the community back to your ex, will look very good indeed. Now, I'm not saying you do this for the only reason of trying to get your ex back. There's got to be some genuine feeling in this, because you can only act for so long. If you're doing this just to try and get your ex's attention, this is not going to help you in the long run. You will trip up. So I'm suggesting you have a really good think about what you could do to be active in your community in a way that you truly, honestly, genuinely believe in what you are doing. It doesn't necessarily have to be charity or volunteering, but I would say that is a good start and a good thing to be considering. Maybe it's about you joining a class group or club where you are doing something proactive and positive. Something like this could even get into the local paper, or certainly social media can spread the word. As I keep saying, it's got to be genuine. It can't just be for the purpose of getting your ex back. But if you do have a genuine thought process of doing something for other people, something helpful, something supportive, if and when this gets back to your ex, which if you live in the same community, it very likely will, friends of friends, social media, local news, all of those types of things, that is a fantastic way to think of you more positively. If you're thinking this sounds crazy, let me tell you, I had an audio coaching client very recently who did this exact situation to a T, and their ex found out about it and reached out. So I know that it works, and I know it works very recently because this was something that didn't happen very long ago. Their ex reached out, they heard about what they'd done, and they are now hopefully on the road to reconnecting. We're not quite there yet. There's still a bit of a way to go, but they are communicating once more and they are meeting up. So fingers crossed they can get that over the line. But that was all through being active in the community, being positive in the community, doing things for other people, not just yourself, and letting this positive image get back to your ex. Has to be genuine though. Don't forget that important point. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about make your ex think of you positively. And point number 3 is respect their decision. Now, if you've listened to point number 1 and you think, well, I'm not going to have a chance to plant positive triggers. If you've listened to point number 2 and you think that just isn't for me, I don't see how this works for me in the community. Point number 3 is something which everybody can do no matter where you are in your path and your journey. And that is respecting your ex's decision. If you are the dumpee, that means they are the dumper. That means they ended the relationship. That means that unfortunately for you, they did not feel comfortable and satisfied moving forward with your relationship at this time. They ended the relationship because they lost romantic emotional attraction for you. Now, this can grow again, and hopefully for your case, this actually does change. I really, really hope for you that this is something which can grow and evolve in your ex's mind. But right now, they have a low level of romantic emotional attraction for you. And you must respect that decision. They've ended the relationship. This is where I always say to people, think about things logically. They've ended a relationship. They don't feel it's working for them. What do you think is going to help your cause most? Is it going to be bombard your ex with messages, chase them down, or is it going to be you respecting their decision and never contacting them again unless they contact you first? I would say in most instances, if you are a dumpee, you should never contact them again unless they contact you first, because that is respecting their decision. That is my basis to my version of a no contact rule. If you want to learn more about that, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, ring the bell for notifications, and check out my playlist entitled The No Contact Rule, where you can fully immerse yourself in my version of a rule. I believe that is the basis. You need to respect their decision. If you don't respect their decision, if you keep texting them, if you're waiting outside where they live or where they work, what do you think they're going to do when they see you? What do you think they're going to do when they read a message has come through from you for the 5th time this week? They are not likely to be growing romantic emotional attraction. They are more likely to be feeling frustrated. They are more likely to be thinking, my ex-dumpee does not listen to me. My ex-dumpee does not respect me. My ex-dumpee probably is not having a stable mindset right now. None of these things are going to help your cause. Remember, today's podcast is make your ex think of you positively, not think of you negatively. If you chase your ex, if you hound your ex, if you don't take no for an answer, they are more likely to think of you negatively than positively. I would always say as a dumpee, this is a fundamental point. Respect their decision. It doesn't matter where you are on the journey. You may have been dumped yesterday. You may have been dumped a year ago. If you respect their decision, they're going to be thinking of you in a better light. Because they'll be thinking, at the very least, they've listened to me. So many people get dumped because their ex-dumper does not think that their dumpee listens to them, listens to their needs, listens to their problems. If you've been dumped for that reason and you're still not listening to them, you're not going to get them back. Even if that wasn't the reason, are you likely to reattract your ex by annoying them, by frustrating them, by behaving in a negative way? No, you are not. So please, point number 3, respect their decision. And if you're thinking, well, I don't think my ex-dumper will ever reach out to me. I think they won't ever reach out to me because they have an avoidant attachment style, or they're very, very arrogant, or they're somebody who's very, very stubborn. Let me just tell you, I've seen dumpers who are arrogant. I've seen dumpers who are stubborn. I've seen dumpers who have an avoidant attachment style reach out to their ex-dumpee in the future. This is not a cause and an excuse for you to break no contact. This doesn't mean they will, of course not. There is no 100% guaranteed way to get your ex back. Nothing works 100% of the time, and nothing fails 100% of the time. And that is the second sub-point to what I'm saying here. Firstly, I was basically saying that it doesn't matter the personality of your ex-dumper. If they want to reach out to you, they will. But secondly on this, if they don't want to reach out to you, then they won't. You can't force somebody to like you. You can't make somebody be in a relationship with you. If they don't want to reach out to you, if they don't want to be with you, if they don't want to be in a relationship with you, you can't make them. You must respect their decision. So if they won't come to you, I would suggest moving forward with your life, focusing on improving every single day and making new connections. You can and will find happiness again. Your ex-dumper does not connect to your only possibility of happiness. Please believe in me. Please believe that if you don't get your ex back, you can find somebody even better, because you can. I promise you, it's possible. So, if you don't respect their decision, you're very unlikely to make your ex think of you positively. That means it's very unlikely that they will regrow romantic emotional attraction. That means it's very unlikely that they will ever reach out to you. So let's think the opposite on that. You want them to think positively, respect their decision, try and grow that attraction, increase the chance of them reaching out to you, and hopefully in the future, you can reconnect with your ex. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.